of the Rockies, Colorado is rich in coal, and the story of the miners of Colorado should be told. Colorado, it was a poor place to raise a family in the 1910s, and the miners of Colorado were poor, hard-working men. Now Rockefeller, he was a rich man. He owned the mines and he owned the land. He wrote the law books for Colorado, and the sheriff was his right hand. Well, the miners, they took to striking for union and a living wage. And when he heard this, old Rockefeller, his coward's heart is filled with rage. Call the militia, get vigilantes, we'll get 'em guns, don't you spare no cost, 'cause we have got to show them dirty miners that Rockefeller, he is the boss. And so one morning, without warning, that state militia, they opened fire, and by the sundown, that miners' village had become a funeral pyre. But the survivors, they were undaunted, got themselves guns and they fought back. And we'll remember Bloody Ludlow as the miners' victory, and that's a fact.
You see, we had a strike in 1910. Oh no, 1903 and 4. It was just lost. Every 10 years they used to have a strike there. And then Bob come in from somewhere and started a union. They call it the Western Federation of Miners. Sick benefit things. If you get sick, you get $1 a day. And then I got in touch with Bob, and then when he got ready to United Mine Workers come in there, he just turned the whole works over to United Mine Workers. So I talked to the fellow that was connected with the union. I said, "You think we ought to do something with these men?" He said, "Will you?" I said, "Well, I'll try." And I took the job to organize the miners.
There was a day here that you can show yourself that you belong to union. Boy, they run you out of there. They run me 3-4 times out of camp. We want you right now out of camp. A super was there too. I told him, I said, "No, I'm not going to go." We said, "Why? You got to go." I said, "I got my tools and you have to buy your own tools. I got to go down there, get my tools and measure my yardage and get my pay before I go." But I was single then, I didn't give a damn. Whether they run me out or not.
And it was dangerous. I got cut one night in the camp. They came in at the midnight and took me out of the miner's batch. He was batching there, staying with him. Took me out there, beat the hell out of him, and thought I was dead.
We was a batching, you see. And he come to our batch and we hide him. And the gunman come ask, he says, "Mike Lewada was here?" "No, never seen no Mike Lewada."
About midnight, here comes the 5 tugs in there, and got me up. And the first thing is the guy hit me, broke my nose.
I know the other guy that they beat Mike Levoda, Joe Watson. He was marshal up there on a camp on a revenue.
He was a sheriff. Yeah. And the others, the fellow that did most beating, at night you couldn't see very well, you know, it was pretty dark. He was one of those stooges of the company that those guys never touched their hands on me, but it's this guy that was done this. He was knocking my head and kicking in the back here. Yeah. But the guards were standing around there watching, say, and all I could do is to put my hands up here, protect my eyes. I was afraid that he might knock my eye out.
Me and George Harmon, I think, was with the first guy that was killed in the Southern Colorado Coal Strike. We were going up, we got off the train in Trinidad and walked up to Commercial Street, and we started up Commercial Street, and we got on, going up through there, and a fellow by the name of Lepia, who had come down from Denver. He was an organizer. And two fellas walked out with guns out from a pawn shop there. Stepped out with guns and stopped Lepia. But me and George walked on up the street a little. We hadn't walked very far till they started shooting. And they shot Lepia down, and he fell in the middle of the street, and that was Belk and Belcher.
Belk and Belcher, they were Baldwin Phelps, and they were both mean. They came imported from New York, to carry the fight for the company.
The CF&I company had gone to Virginia and imported, made a contract with the Baldwin Phelps Detective Agency, which had gone into the slums of New York and Chicago and hired gunmen and thugs, brought them out to Colorado. They were all over the streets of Trinidad. The most notorious of the gunmen was a man named Belcher, and the miners had decided to kill him. They had decided at a meeting of miners that this man had to be killed. He was terrorizing miners and their families, and there was no way to cope with him. And during the course of the discussion about how they were going to kill him and who was going to kill him, it was brought out that the man wore body armor.
Yeah, they wore armor, and when they go down the street, they'd go down, and when they come to the place, you know, they'd turn and back in. They'd never walk in frontward. They'd turn around and back in. See? Belcher was killed coming out of a drugstore there when they had a big freight or something going on in Trinidad. I wasn't there at the time, but I heard it. And he walked out of there, and he had a cigar, and somebody plugged him in the head.
And, of course, if the right words were used, they'd say it's a good thing they killed him. They should kill the rest of them. That was the slogan, you might say, at that time, because the miners, of course, were certainly against them.
The organization of the Southern Colorado Field took a matter of many, many months. They were going up against a tough customer in John D. Rockefeller and his Western managers, and the Victor American Fuel and the other coal companies. The operators were strong, and they were united. Secret meetings were held in these hills at night. And, of course, as more and more came into the Union, why, the thing became more and more open.
See, the organized miner, you go there before the strike, you call them, see, if they want to sign up in the Union. We tell them you get the better pay, you get the better protection, something is happening to your family, you will take care like he does now. Eh? Some sign it, some says, oh no.
And so I keep talking to the miners, and let's do something, got to do something, this thing is no good. And then we got into strike, 1913-14. Well, we had a convention of the coal miners of the entire state, and decided, and the company won't meet us and won't do anything about it. And in this convention, they decided to have a strike. And they set the time and date when it's to be. And they, of course, took a little while to prepare all of those things. You can't have 14,000 men to come out there just have a meeting and just to go right out of that meeting and go out there. It took some preparation to work things up, and which we did for a little while and set the date for 23rd day of September. And they came out.
I remember when they evicted my dad out of the town at that time. Well, to get out of there, they just took his furniture and threw it out on the street. It was in the fall, and it was sprinkling, like you know how it is in the fall, raining. Well, he had to go up there. There used to be some farms around Delawa, and then go up there and get a team of horses and a wagon. Come down with it. We loaded all of our furniture. It was raining. They just had the tent colony set up in Ludlow, too.
The unions were prepared to have their people evicted from the coal camps. And in advance, they had purchased tents and stoves and everything to set up tent colonies down on the prairies on free ground that was not company ground. And once in the camps, they were organized. They had officers in charge. For example, at Ludlow, the Greek miner, Louis Tikas, he was in charge of that colony.
And that son of a bitch was a union man. He was union from his ass both ways. I'm not kidding you, but he was a good man. He was a good union. That is for our side, see? And he didn't stand for any of that crap.
Ludlow was a regular village, a regular little town, you know, 1,400 or 1,500 people. And then Aguilar was the same way, Walsenburg, and my job was usually I had to go from place to place to talk to miners and keep things up. Wherever had a local union that was out on a strike, we had Italian, myself, and one American, and Mother Jones.
Mother Jones, she was a lovely old lady. She talked on me on the corner many and many a time. But she was a radical. It hurt her to see a coal miner's wife with 7 or 8 kids and half-dressed, starving. And that's what hurt Mother Jones. She was a grand old gal.
She was a fighter. She was a good fighter for laboring men, and she was fighting for labor all the time, Mother Jones. And, of course, she may have not have done no dirty dishes, but she sure done a lot of good work for the union.
Sometimes she would condemn the women for not standing back of their men as they should. But a lot of those women were people from the old country, too, and they were not accustomed to going forward with things. And as the thing was, nearly every one of them had big families. As you know, the miners had several little children, and they felt that their duty was at home with the children. But she would, there's a hill between Aguilar and Ludlow that we call it Mother Jones Hill. She got up there and made a talk to all of them.
If you're too cowardly to fight for your rights, there are enough women in this country to come and beat the hell out of you. If it is slavery or strike, I say strike until the last one of you drop into your graves. We are going to stand together and never surrender.
Each camp was in itself a picket line with dozens and dozens of tents and thousands of miners and their families in them, blocking the entrance to the canyon going up to the mine.
My father was mine foreman, which meant he wasn't called on strike. The strike breakers came in on the train at the 6 o'clock train at night, and we would hear the train would come up from Walsenburg, go around the hill. And we would hear the train go toot, toot, toot. We'd all go down to meet the people coming in. Now, these people, there were families, and they were sent to different camps, the CF&I camps. And we welcomed those people, and we really enjoyed having them. There's some of the families still here. I know they are.
There was no trouble anywhere till they started that Ludlow tent colony. See? And everybody says the purpose that was because they was there watching all them trains coming and they couldn't ship in no scabs, see?
We used to go up in the track and stop the train. Stop the train, and then we go see all the boxcar and open them all up and see if there was scabs in. Because they used to bring a lot of them in with the trains, see, and then they put them in a boxcar and then they close the door. And we made this
the conductor, whoever it was, to open that door. See if there was any strikers in there. I mean, any scabs in there. One time we fired one, and he got out. He jumped the door. We never see it again. He went like just like a jackrabbit. Yeah, never see him.
They shipped some old Mexicans in here, and all of that, promised them jobs, you know, and they came in boxcars and every other thing like cattle. And then the poor devils, they didn't even know what they was getting into. They wanted those jobs, and finally the union guys start getting riled up about it, and that's when the camp guards start getting tough, and it got tougher and tougher until they finally raided the camp, and the shooting started.
Oh, here. That's how they used to go around in the truck and machine gun to the miners' camp.
Who?
Company guards.
Is that what they call the death special?
Yeah. There's a machine gun set up right in there.
On October 17th, CF&I's Death Special engaged the tent colony at Forbes. Stryker was killed, young girl shot in the face, and a boy hit 9 times in the legs as he tried to crawl to safety.
That was the day that they first shot him in the tent colony. Well, we got off the train then that day. Yeah, we had about a whole lot of things, and Dad said, don't worry about them, just throw them in the creek and go down and lay low. You know, when they were shooting?
Yeah.
And he was with me, you know. He said, don't care, we can find more. Just throw them down.
Louis Tikas is very much worried at these attacks on the smaller tent colonies. One of the things that he saw as very, very dangerous was a man named Monty Linderfelt, a thug in uniform, a brutal man in all his dealings with the miners.
Linderfelt, well, he was a son of a bitch. A man that if you don't believe and do like he does, he thinks you ought to be dead.
The miners were armed as swiftly as the UMWA could purchase rifles. Most of the guns used were Winchester 30-30s.
Yeah, 30-30s. I help unpack them and everything. As kids was into everything, you know. And every time they'd shoot a scab, we'd run down and see. And I've seen some bloody heads and some dead ones and all.
You know, Mike Lavola has one of those 30-30s.
Here's the guy that you're looking at now, and here's the rifle. And this is some of our own army. This is the way we used to be armed.
You can see me in a small picture. I got a kind of white coat. I was a damn good shot. Impossible to beat. Just about.
There was a 5-6 organizer there. Mm-hmm. That was one Italian guy, named Bernardo Bilizzari. He was a sergeant in the old country. He make us dig a trench and everything to the safe, he said.
These little guys, you know, these little sci-fi Italians were good young men. They knew how to fight. They were dressed for it. They knew how to fight these machine guns, too. They were trained, them guys. When they come over from Italy, I guess they trained them over there. I don't know.
2 days later began the first phase of the operators' campaign to have the state militia sent to the coal fields. You see, the operators were trying to force Governor Elias Hammonds to send in state troops in order to take over strike-breaking duties. Also, this would make the state bear the expense of the strike.
But I can tell you a story that happened in the 1913 strike. It happened to my mother. She left Cameron, came into town to take care of some business. And I don't know if you have heard of Mother Jones or not. She could, through her speech, I can see how mobs are formed. She has a power of oratory. And it was on the courthouse steps. And she was talking, and my mother realized the mood of the crowd because that group of men were riled up to the point they would have attacked. So my mother just sat there and just looked the woman straight in the eye the whole time. She called my mother every kind of name you can imagine. And my mother just sat and looked at her. Governor Ammons was in the courthouse that day. They'd had this big rally here in Walsenburg. This was the strikers, and they had the big rally. The militia was sent in the following week. My mother always wondered if there could have been a connection between the attack on her and the militia coming in the next week, because Governor Ammons sent the militia in.
You see, the trouble was that most of the men in militia was a company guard. They had joined the militia before the governor ordered them out.
I don't understand.
You don't understand?
What?
Guy that was company guard put the state uniform on to be called the National Guard. Yeah. And those kind of guys want to keep peace between the strikers and the company.
I got no use for the militia. I never will have. Because one of them hit my dad over the head and he was walking on the main street in Trinidad. Just walking.
The miners didn't like the militia, of course, because the militia was brought in to protect the CF&I, or the property owners, you see. You can see how that was.
And they sent a committee up to see Governor Ammons about the militia being down there, you know. See? And Louis Tychus was a Greek. He was from the Ludlow Tent Colony. See? And he was there at the meeting that evening. And he said to him, he said, I don't think you've given your governor a chance. You see? And Mother Jones got up and she said, damn the governor, damn you, she said. If you'd listened to me, we'd have marched on the Capitol this morning. Tomorrow morning we're marching with the Ludlow flag on one side and the American flag on the other, and Mother Jones in the lead singing Union Forever. When we started out, there wasn't very many. By the time we got to the state capitol, we were about 500 strong. But when we got to the state capitol, Adams wouldn't talk to nobody. So that ended that there.
January the 4th, 1914, Mother Jones announced she was returning to the southern fields. She will be jailed immediately if she comes to Trinidad, General Chase told newspapermen. I'm not going to give her a chance to make any more speeches here. She is dangerous because she inflamed the minds of the strikers. Mother Jones made a statement of her own.
Tell General Chase that Mother Jones is going to Trinidad in a day or two, and that he'd better play his strongest cards. The militia's guns against her. He had better go back to his mother and get a nursing bottle.
True to her word, Mother Jones went to Trinidad. General Chase arrested her and ordered her taken to Mount San Rafael Hospital. Lads, the great Standard Oil is certainly afraid of an old woman, Mother Jones cackled.
What they did there is to, rather than put her in the jail, they picked her up off the train in Trinidad and took her up, put her in the hospital, and put the guard out there and watch her room so she wouldn't leave the room.
One day, my father received a call. Billy Diamond said, Doctor, don't ask any questions. Just take your bag and go out to the hospital, go up to the second floor, and go to Mother Jones' room. So my father said, okay, Billy, if that's the way you want it, I'll do it. So I went out to the hospital, went up the second floor. He could see the room where Mother Jones was. The door was open. The old lady is in there looking very benign, and she looks as though she's dying. She was strong enough at that moment to... she wasn't sick at all, as it turned out. But she's dying, and it was a pitiful sight. So my father shouted, Mother Jones, are you all right? Are you sick, Mother Jones? Are you sick? And she said, Doctor, I'm dying. I'm dying. So the militia pushed him back and said, you can't go in here. So my father turned away and went back to his office. The Union had prepared cartoons in advance. The title on the cartoon said, this is the way they treat an 82-year-old woman in Colorado. The cartoon showed the old lady in bed, and it showed this brutal-looking militiaman. And my father looks like a stage doctor instead of just a young man. He has this bag, and it says Dr. Bashore on it, and the bayonet is sticking right in his stomach. Well, it was a very effective piece of propaganda. Another very effective piece of propaganda happened when the Union staged what was known as the Women's Parade. On January 23rd, the women of Los Animas County organized a demonstration and parade in behalf of Mother Jones.
God bless Mother Jones. Oh, look at the women in their long dresses, dark-looking figures.
Union forever.
Oh, boys are all down with the militia, to hell with the law, for we're coming, Colorado. We're coming all the way, shouting the battle cry of Union. The long line of shabbily dressed women and children moved across the Forgetwire River Bridge and up to Trinidad's Commercial Street and turned east on Main Street toward the hospital.
They were going to march out and see Mother Jones out there at the hospital. The streets wasn't paved then in Trinidad. And they marched around the corner, and they see a bunch was on horseback, you know.
Opposite the post office, a line of cavalry was drawn across the street. The cavalrymen had their sabers out of their scabbards. And then here comes the collection. No men, women, and children. And as they got close, the women began to deride and yell at General Chase, and he got redder and redder in the face. And some horse manure was thrown at him, and he was provoked as much as they could provoke him.
And this woman from Starkville, she was Pablo Warwick's wife. He came up there and he was going to stop them all. We stood on the sidewalk there by the bank and chase them all back, and she slapped him off his horse.
And a great roar of laughter went up from the women and children. General Chase climbed stiffly to his feet and yelled at his men, "Ride down the women."
And I was at the post office steps when this militia on a horseback run into him.
Spurs sank home, and the cavalry mounts plunged forward with snorts. Sabers flashed in the bright sunlight. The women began to run back.
And then the militia was on horseback and practically ran over you if you didn't get out of their way, you know.
They tore them all apart. And they round them down there, and they tramped them on the horseback for the militia.
Mrs. Maggie Hammonds was slashed across the forehead with a saber. Mrs. George Gibson's ear was almost severed from her head. Mrs. Thomas Braley threw up her hands in front of her face, and they were gashed by a saber. The riot aroused the state as nothing had before.
You remember that? Do you remember the soldiers in the streets?
I remember seeing the cavalry in the streets. Indeed, I do.
That would stick in your mind.
You see, I was a small boy, and I have no memory that goes along with any continuity. All I see are still flashes. I do see cavalrymen because, of course, at that age, the horses impress me.
Oh, I'll be danged. Yeah. You're not old enough to remember the horses clip-clocking on them brick streets. And
I can hear them. I saw the militia on the streets in Trinidad.
I can still hear them, too.
I can hear them, too. Clip-clop, clip-clop.
Yeah.
Did you go down to Ludlow?
The tent colony, you mean? Oh, I went several times.
With your father?
Yeah, with a wagon, horse and wagon. We had several friends there, good friends, and we used to go visit with them and everything. Yeah, and they had the tents like streets, you know, in rows, you know, and everything. And we just mill around there and visit with friends and ride back.
When you went down to visit, let's say you went down in a horse and wagon, huh? And you go down, and you're going to spend Sunday afternoon. What would you do while you were there? You kids would play around.
When we got there?
Yeah, what would you do?
Oh, we used to mill around there. They had a great big tent, and they had their meetings there and everything, and they usually had a band. Some of them could play a few instruments and everything.
The old men played bocce.
Well, yeah, they played bocce. They had some baseball, too.
They had the little girls sing sometimes?
Well, yeah, there was some of the men that sang, not so much the girls. Yeah, Italian songs and all that kind of stuff.
Greek songs?
But we had everything there, Greeks, Italian, Slavs, and all. The League of Nations was there, you might say.
And they got along together.
Oh, beautifully, yes, you sure did. They all stuck together.
We were kind of happy, you know. We were getting $3 a week for food. And we were making potatoes, sometimes a little meat. A fellow could live on $6 a month.
And I'll tell you another thing, the farmers around there were in sympathy. They used to let them have eggs and stuff like that, but as far as you say that they got along, they did get along. They stuck together, and that's why they really won this war, I think, with the companies, because they did stick together.
Well, they all got along fine and dandy. There was a lot of hardship and everything. They was broke, and miner never could save anything, especially trying to raise kids and things like that.
Well, when the weather was nice, they'd go out and maybe hunt rabbits, hunt something. But of course, they didn't have no guns. They took the guns away from us.
Who did?
The militia.
The militia were intimidating the people of the tent colony. They would ride by on their horses and shout threats and imprecations at them. They would go by in their cars and fire into the tents. And they did such little tricks as getting rusty barbed wire and stuffing it down the wells where the people got their water.
The militia would sit there, and they'd sneak out at night to try to get their drinking water, and they'd shoot the holes in their buckets.
This caused the people in the tent colony to dig pits under their tents and then put a flooring over them and a trap door. And whenever they heard shots going through their tents, then they would drop into these pits so that bullets crossing through the colony couldn't hit them.
This is your tent, and that's the usual snow.
Yeah, that's my tent. That's my sister, and that's little Irene. Yeah, that's my tent colony in there. Daddy's got a rug or two up. That's him up there. He's trying to clean, I guess, ours in bed.
Tell me, you lost two sets of twins?
Yeah, boy and a girl each time.
Now, were these children premature?
Well, the first pair was all right, but the second were 7-month babies.
7 months.
Mm-hmm.
The first pair, what happened to them?
Well, we couldn't get help, couldn't get doctors, you know what I mean? Like your brother couldn't get there. They were shooting, that's when they having all that trouble and had to crawl along and couldn't get no one. Well, anyway, after the twins were born, at 2 in the morning, I just, I looked at the time. I just felt funny because I felt like I was choking, you know, just slightly. And I had, Aunt Lizzie said, I'll put the little boy in your arm and we'll take care of the little girl. So I thought he was good. And I tried to, I couldn't move my arms. I was just so tired, you know. And I looked at the time, it was 2 o'clock. And then all at one time, I heard the prettiest music. That music just carried me. I was going with the baby dying.
On March 10, 1914, a non-union miner was found dead on the railroad tracks near the tent colony at Forbes. General Chase, announcing that the strikebreaker had been murdered, used the incident as an excuse to totally destroy the Forbes tent colony. Militia set torches to the tent, pulling the canvas down, destroying the strikers' homes and their few possessions.
When they went to bury my twins, that was the first set of twins, where Mrs. Mosier said she'd sit with me while they went to Trinidad. So while they were gone, all of the tents were torn down but 2, mine and another one. So the militia came up to my place then, and one of them wanted to know, you know, that's what I was and all. And then he said, well, we ain't going to food carrying this, and we just light a match to it. So there was another soldier. He said, I won't burn it. He said, I'll kill you before you hurt her. She's there sick in bed and they're bearing her twins. You're not going to hurt her. So whoever he is, I always say a prayer for that boy. I don't know if he's alive or not, the soldier. You know, one would help me and the other would I'd have been gone.
8 miles away, the 1,200 strikers at the Ludlow colony watched the smoke rise from the burning tents of Forbes. Will Ludlow be the next to suffer? The Greek Easter, April 19th, 1914, was a gala day in the Ludlow tent colony.
The day before the fight broke out, we had a baseball ground across the highway where miners used to go out there and play ball. And across the railroad track was a National Guard camp, see? And those guys used to come over there and try to insult the miners' wives. And naturally the miner opposed to that and said something, and the National Guard, they said, well, you have your fun today, but we'll have ours tomorrow, so.
Louis was filled with foreboding. Lieutenant Linderfelt had returned to Hastings. Louis had heard that Linderfelt had boasted he would wipe out the Ludlow colony.
Well, I heard it was going to happen by that railroad man. That was at night. See, I was coming from the show, and it was pretty late. They said, I seen them planting machine guns. It was a moonlight night, see, along the railroad track. Well, the railroad track, if you've noticed down there, right here, well, that tent colony was right here, see? Right in here, in the railroad track here. He said they was planting machine guns along here, and guns.
And by that morning, there was a bunch of militias that used to kill the 17, 18-year-old kids. They used to give them 50 cents an hour. They kill you like a dog for them.
On a pinon-clad hill a mile distant, Lieutenant Linderfelt lay on his stomach with field glasses pressed to his smoldering eyes. It was 10:01 a.m. exactly.
Well, they started shooting down at the strikers down in the tent colony. They took a machine gun. And they started to hit them in the one tent.
When they started shooting and stuff, they go down in these cellar seats.
Well, them women and the kids, they hid it in the basement.
Bullets are flying all over, hitting pans and stoves.
I was under the water tank waiting for a freight train. I wanted to get out from under that tank, and I didn't want to get in the open. Bullet hit the rail, glanced from the rail, and come back and hit me in the heel. That's when I got a shot, too. I got a scar here.
You couldn't see one militia. You couldn't see the machine gun. It was down in a hole.
People began to die in the Ludlow tent colony.
Tychus, he was a Greek. He wanted to have them honor the women and children for their safety.
He was one of the main fighters and everything. They killed him. They had it in for him.
They kept telling him, come on, come on. They talked to him, and he got close enough, they killed him.
Linderfelt seized a Springfield rifle from a militia, swung it over his head and brought it crashing down on the prisoner. That damn son of a bitch, he snarled. He tried to escape.
And then they burned the tank.
They thought they'd be safe there with that, but them fellows was just plain dirty camp guards, hired bums and things like that, and they set everything on fire.
There were 11 kids, I know. 11 little ones. Oh, that...
When the floor started burning, the smoke would go down there. So it was supposed to come out.
Why, these kids and women tried to come up out of there, and they just shoved them back down in there.
When they came out of there was women with the children. There was one woman with that 3-4-month baby. There was a goddamn guys that when that woman come out, used to hear him and the brain to kill them all. And one of them babies, hear him with that and they hold him up in the air with it. And that was disgrace.
And just then there was a train coming by.
That's another thing that comes. That the man that saved the tent colony was a Scotsman, a train man. Get the hell out of there. That's why everybody, otherwise they would have, oh my God. All women all killed.
The train man realized what was going on, and all these guys, strikers and everything, that followed the train, and that's the way they escaped.
Well, we stuck there as long as we could till they kind of let up on the battle, kind of quieting down. Then I went to Trinidad to Dr. Besawyer. He was the Union doctor.
They would report that they saw dead bodies everywhere. They saw the colony being burned. They said, for God's sake, somebody get in and help these poor people at Ludlow.
John Lawson was the head guy of the Union, and myself. When they called us up and told us that fight had broke out in Ludlow, John and I was the first two who got in the car and jumped in the car and started for Ludlow. When we got within a mile and a half of Ludlow, we couldn't get in. It was surrounded by the guards already from all the directions.
Well, we went down the next day. There was nothing but smoke and ruins and old coal stoves, bed springs, bedsteads, and wash tubs and things like that, meager things that they had that they could move out of camp to down. It was a miserable, terrible sight to look at that thing. Nothing but just, like I say, beds and stoves and things sticking out all over the place. Looked like a graveyard.
Now, a lot of things happened. Ludlow is still smoking. The rescue teams of the Red Cross, people are starting to get in there. And they began to remove bodies. The little white coffins of the children were put on a large dray pulled by horses, and they were taken to the Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Trinidad for the requiem. The funeral of Tychus was held according to the rites of the Greek Church, and a Greek priest presided. Jesus, give a place in heaven to Lewis, bring life from the grave. Three times the priest kissed the cheeks of the dead leader. And 3 times he anointed the brow with wine. 3 times he sprinkled dust on the dead man's face. As the service ended, the Greeks pounded on the floor of the funeral chapel 3 times with the butts of their rifles. As the bells tolled, more than 1,000 fierce-faced men were moving through the hills of Los Alamos and Huerfano counties.
So they'll tie a red handkerchief on their neck, a rifle, and march through Trinidad and went straight up the hill. See? So when they went up, the first mine they was meet was Forbes mine. And it started to rain over there, hail and rain. So there was a company house, just a company house. And they started to destroy it. But the people got away. They didn't bother the people. But somebody got it.
And I told the fellows not to bother women and children, leave women and children alone. If there's any man that's up to use your own judgment, what you want to do about it, but leave women and children alone. And they did.
No, we don't know that they shoot no people, nothing. Just ruin the property, they do damage on the property.
And they kill mules?
Well, there was in a barn, so it can produce no more coal. No, by the time they bring some more mules and train them and everything, take a little time.
So that was a good way to go after the companies to get the...
Well, that's the only way they can get revenge.
Yeah.
Well, when poor guy in Ludlow, they didn't do that. Then the little kid, 2-3 months kid, so they stab them with the bayonet. You think that's nice?
Of course not.
Well, what would you do?
I was looking for that general. He was in the Columbia Hotel, and I had my rifle with 6 bullets. I really hadn't mind to kill him. Oh, no. I says,
Get down.
Oh, I can't help it. I saw that hay wagon. That's what I saw, a hay wagon, full of them little corpses.
The Empire Mining is just right out of town here.
Well, that's
and
right.
they burnt that in first.
Did you see
burnt
the fire?
Sure, burned all the houses. They took the piano, went up and down the street playing and pounding the piano.
Who was doing that?
Some of the younger fellas like me, I didn't happen to be on that wagon, but
They had the piano up on the wagon
playing.
What were they playing on the piano? The Union forever.
You
hurrah,
better believe
boys,
it.
hurrah.
That's right.
Down with the militia.
Yeah.
And up with the law. Can you sing it?
We sang that song until my tonsils hurt.
There were a lot of different versions of that song.
There was. Yes, there was.
Sometimes there was Down with the militia.
Yeah.
Hell with the law.
That's right. That's right.
For we're coming, Colorado.
And we're coming all the way.
Shouting
the battle
cry of Union, huh? You remember?
Right. Yeah, I sure remember.
Yeah.
I sang
Great
it.